Trump has lost weight in a good way. I think he's on Ozempic.
Dude, he's getting oil change. Dude, you
I'm
can't
just
have
saying-
that much energy and be that old. He's got something, dude.
Trump looks better physically now than he did when he was president. Biden clearly
His hair is getting funkier.
is worse.
I just don't understand how people, like if you look at social media, like Trump is deranged, he's not fit for office regardless of the conviction, or they're saying he slurred this word and that. You can't compare what Trump does to what Biden does. Biden gives like a short speech, takes 2 questions.
He's looking bad.
And then leaves the facility. Trump is up there at these rallies for like an hour and a half, off the cuff sometimes.
Don't know how he does it. He's
Trumpy?
probably Ozempic, oil change, Adderall.
Doesn't
Who
drink.
knows? Doesn't drink. Never has, he said.
That helps.
Damn right it does.
And boy,
but Biden ain't drinking either.
Does he not drink?
I would say he's probably not at this age. Like he's, I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I don't know how he has that energy, man. It's crazy.
Equally unsettling to me when you see them going after Trump. Oh, he has dementia. Like, all right, you attack our guy with dementia, we're going after yours. But equally as unsettling is the people that think Biden's wearing a mask. I like that one. You had to have seen those,
There was
right?
a weird. There was.
I really like.
You're on
all
Twitter
that-
more than me. How could you miss it?
What are you talking about? I don't think anyone's on Twitter more than you.
You're on Twitter all the time now doing polls and stuff. I see it. I like it.
I'm on Twitter when I watch a Cardinals game, which is about twice a week for 3 innings. And I
see you on
usually
Twitter.
tweet out like 20 tweets in about
all right.
40
I,
minutes.
I see you on there a lot. So that's all.
I did see the clip where you're talking about where he looked completely different in like a couple different speeches. Where one speech, his eyes were really like big, and he's looking at you like he's like you're down to Lake of the Ozarks at 3:00 in the morning. Then he went back to his other kind of facial expression. So he does have a couple different ones. That could be AI. I don't know.
There's a lot of fake.
There's
a lot of
going
fake
on.
videos out there.
A lot of AI going on. What got me for a little bit the other day was a hockey thing too. Oh, it was freaking Paul Maurice post game. I'm like right before I went on, I'm watching Paul Maurice post game from the night before, and I'm like, did he just call out McDavid and Stuart? He called. I'm like, whoa, like that is such a big deal. And then I go on here and somebody, Daddy Padre, right off the back goes, no, that was fake. I'm like, I look back at it, I'm like, oh my god, it just got me real fast, But
You have,
he did
you
not
have to
call
be
out.
discerning. There was someone put out a tweet that looked like it was from Hillary Clinton, and she tweeted allegedly, and I was like, that's not real. And then of course it wasn't, but it was like, the men have ruined everything, and this guy's too old. I'm back in. Let's put women in the White House.
Yeah, she showed up to something the other day. Actually, she looked kind of good for
Hillary?
Hillary did. That's
Looks
me.
kind of good?
For what it is.
Explain.
For what?
For a liberal.
For
You have dip on your cheek.
Sorry.
I wasn't
No,
going to tell
higher
him.
up, higher up.
Why wouldn't you tell me that?
Higher up.
Kinda funny.
That's what a good friends do.
I thought it could be a
Andy
tumor.
didn't do
It's
that the
still
other
there.
day.
It's still there.
Andy didn't do that
That's
to me the other
different.
day.
Well, first of all,
I
if
had
you're on
camera on my
camera.
face. I had camera on my face.
But that's-
he didn't tell me that.
you have camera on your face?
Camera was on my face.
A little
he
camera.
didn't tell me.
Well, that's fun for the show then.
God.
For this, no video, so it's not as good.
What was I going to say? Nah.
said
Still there,
Hillary's
by the
Oh,
way.
Hillary Clinton.
It's still there,
Where?
right? No,
Cam.
I'm there. You go.
If
Now you got.
you
it.
understand. You understand. If anybody knows, you understand.
What are you trying to say? That I look bad? Sometimes?
No. There's sometimes chew when you're
Yeah.
a chewer
Oh, yeah.
gets places. You got a beard too. Gets caught a little bit too.
Yeah.
Hey, because we're on the topic of politics, you want to hear something fascinating?
Yeah.
This is true.
Let's go.
Like, I can
Let's
show
go.
you analytics. of
Let's
this.
go.
So Eric and I do this podcast. It's really starting, knock on wood, to pick up in the last 2 months, but really the last, let's say, 2 weeks. And it's 100% because of RFK Jr. supporters. And it just started by just throwing a video out there. We do the podcast hour, and then we cut it up. I usually cut it up into what I think. If there's 2 or 3 little short segments, I put them out there. I put one out about RFK. It blows up. I'm talking now. It's all relative to our channel, but I start to look at the comments, and I'm telling you, dude, there is a coordinated effort through RFK Jr. supporters to go on. Now, this is just YouTube. I can't speak to all the different other social medias, but they go and they watch every other video that's about RFK Jr. They jump in the comments. They like each other's comments. They like your video. and they pump up any positive comment, any positive video about RFK Jr. So since that happened, I'm testing it. So I'm like, I'm going to keep talking about RFK Jr.
Interesting.
I'm telling you, dude. Now, I'm not saying it's bots.
I was going to ask that.
Because I will say this. I can't even keep up with the comments. I have comments from 5 days ago that I have not even looked at. They actually do watch the video because they'll say something and they'll bring up something I said 7 minutes in. But I'm telling you, like, I think there's an effort through their supporters and staffers, and they're saying, look, anything positive about RFK Jr., watch him a lot, share him on social media, comment, pump him up because it's good for business, and people are going to talk more about RFK Jr. I've never, in 3+ years of YouTube, I've never seen anything like what I've seen in the last 2 weeks.
Really?
I've been telling my wife, like, I don't know if this is real.
I think that there's
It's
people that
interesting.
figure out the analytics.
No,
where-
but they have to watch. So, like, what I'm thinking is
Yeah, but
there
they-
a bunch of people that just press play on the video over and over and over and over and over to pump up your views? If that's the case, they will be caught by YouTube, and then I don't get the money. That's what I think is happening to a certain
So
extent.
you could do that to your views?
100%. No. What I'm saying is, what if RFK Jr. has a group of an email list, right? A Facebook fan group, and they put all the videos in there. Like, hey, this is a good video. They're pumping up RFK
There it
Jr.
is.
Everybody watch it. Everybody jumps on, and they just keep pressing play. The views go up. People are going, oh, I make money now if I talk about RFK Jr. My videos do better. It's crazy. I could show you the analytics. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Like, I don't believe it's real. I'm telling you.
We might have to do one on RFK. Just talk about him. Great guy. Looks good for his age.
He does look good.
Looks great.
Not just for his age, though. I mean, he's
His
probably in better
voice
shape
is-
than we are.
His voice is getting better. No, it's not.
Isn't that crazy, though?
It's awesome.
Do you think?
Not
what
awesome.
do you think?
I don't know what
No,
it is.
well, I'm like, dude,
it kind of is.
my wife
awesome.
already likes RFK Jr., and I'm thinking, I said, I'm going to turn this channel into an RFK Jr. channel.
Yes.
But that's what it makes you think. So it makes sense for them to do that.
Yeah.
If you pump up any podcast with RFK Jr., people are like, and obviously I'm a low person, but like anybody who's a big person, oh my God, if I get RFK Jr. on, I get 5 million views, I make
Exactly.
$20,000.
I had a very, very strong voice.
Oh,
I bet you could get him on your podcast if you tried.
Yeah. He
We
probably
may
would
do
do
that.
that. He probably would do that.
Do that.
Yeah,
You know,
we
He
thought
goes
about
on all of them.
Yeah.
Do you think he helps Trump more or Biden more? Because I've read both sides. I don't. I think right now it could be a toss-up. No one really knows.
Well, the polling on that flipped. It was always like two points hurting Biden, and now it's allegedly 2 points helping Biden. And that switched in the last month or so.
Yeah, I saw that too. You know, it's going to get crazy. It'll get crazy.
I like this text from Flipper Bean.
What's he saying, Cole? What's he saying?
Hey, Kat, what is tougher radio to sit through, poker hand talk or golf game talk?
It's tough.
They were both very enjoyable.
Well, it's not like it's not the U.S. Open, and like talking about Bryson DeChambeau. It's talking about your own golf game. I think would be boring.
You want one more political comment?
Now go ahead, keep them coming. Damn it!
And I found this interesting. Are you guys familiar with this guy, Alan Lichtman? Now, maybe you don't remember the name. He's the guy who has successfully predicted every presidential winner since Reagan's second term.
I would give myself an A+.
You've probably heard of this guy. He really kind of blows up every election cycle. He's a historian.
I bet you I know a picture of him.
He worked with this Russian data guy 40 years ago to create this 13 questions that basically how you answer the questions shows you who's going to win the presidential election. He's never been wrong. He's predicted every single one since Reagan's second term. And so I watched a video the other day where he's not ready to make his prediction yet. He usually makes this prediction. It differs by the election cycle, but he said usually it's August or September, and it's 13 questions. And I think this speaks to why it makes more sense for Biden to stay in than switch him out. But basically, this guy said right now, and this guy is not political at all. He's just, here's the question, yes or no. And he said Biden would have to do a lot to lose the election based on his criteria, which has predicted the election winner every single time for 40 years. And what he said was 2 of the questions of the 13, So you're talking about, that's probably what, 17%, whatever. 2 of the questions, the incumbent president gets credit for it just by being the incumbent president. So that's, hey, one of them is you're the incumbent and you don't face a true primary challenge. So when I watch that, because don't you think everybody thinks they should switch Biden out? Or everybody hopes for the most part? Like nobody wants Trump and Biden for the most part. So like everybody would prefer if it wasn't Biden. By this guy's criteria, it shows you that a huge component of the incumbent winning is literally being the incumbent.
That's why they haven't done it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And he's saying part of it is like you don't realize the chaos of an open primary. You don't realize from a resources standpoint what you have to put in just to win the primary or to have a legitimate primary challenge. So it's kind of about your time and your energy. Knowing that Biden was always going to be the nominee, they could already for the last year or so put all their time and energy into Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, which are really the only states that matter. So I just found that interesting because I also think in my head that the Democrats would have a better chance of winning if it wasn't Biden. And this guy, who's straight data, he basically says that's totally false. You have so much power just by being the incumbent president, even if you're super, super unpopular.
Incumbents always have an edge, but in this case, it's unlike any other election because of Biden's age and whether or not people think he can get through the next 4 years, which I think is a real thing.
Oh, for sure.
And there's still, I mean, it's not a lot of time before the election, but it's really a ton of time for things to happen along the way. Could be anti-Trump, could be anti-Biden, that change the complexion of the whole race. So picking now, I think, is a moot point because I guarantee with both sides so venomous over this, there's going to be a ton of stuff coming out in the weeks, maybe the months before the election that could change everything. But I think what we're seeing from Biden is I don't think he goes 4 years, even if he wins.
Oh, no chance.
And so you're electing a guy that you know won't be in for the long haul. And if he has more incident, like it wasn't a deep fake with Obama helping him off. He grabbed him by the wrist. That's a bad look. Like if I were part of the Biden team, I would be mad at Obama for doing that.
Come over, give him a hey.
Look, you can debate whether or not Biden froze or maybe didn't. He was soaking in the applause. That's fine. But it's clear Biden grabbed him by the wrist like he was a child, or it looked bad. And everything is about everything is about appearance. If I were part of the Biden campaign, I'd be mad. Obama is smarter than that. Like he is a well-schooled, always comes off looking good and sounding good.
Sharp.
He knows better than doing. He didn't like put his arm around him like this is great, and then like kind of nudge him. He grabbed him by the wrist, and that's a bad look.
I didn't think that was a big deal at all.
It's so funny, man.
By the way, the right
in context,
Biden is so old, and he has so many. You guys are overplaying that. You really are.
No,
every day.
I didn't say anything.
I'm just saying in general.
It's funny.
Like we all know Biden is super old. I don't want him to run. You're overplaying that every day.
I laugh at it.
Like the thing with the parachutes. People specifically cut off the video to make it look like he was wandering and talking to no one. That. He was talking to a parachuter that was off camera. Like. I'm telling you, it becomes the boy who cries wolf. Honestly, it really does.
Yeah.
I mean, when
you blow up every single thing and try to make it. I mean, the dude literally falls down. Like when he falls down, we all know that's a really bad look. When you try to pretend every day that everything is this horrible thing, you're overplaying your hand.
The one I saw, which I called out on the air, was when they said he pooped his pants.
Yeah.
And there was a chair behind.
Our best video ever, by the way.
So if you let the video go, you see there's a chair, and he's just sitting. Probably shouldn't be ready, but he was just getting ready to sit before everyone else. I didn't even know in the original one, it just looked like he was copping a squat.
Oh, he's super awkward.
There was a
100%.
chair behind him. So
I mean, he's incredibly old.
But they both do. Like Biden goes around campaigning saying Trump says he's going to be a dictator from day one. What he said was, "I'll be a dictator and put all the executive orders back in place to stop the flow. Then I'll be a normal president." So, in a sense, he's doing the exact same thing with words, cutting off, to make a point. Both sides do it. So you have to know what you're consuming.
Trump says a lot of funny stuff. Like when he's at a rally, you can't take everything Donald Trump says literally. Donald Trump is hilarious.
Dude,
whether you
he's so
like
funny.
or dislike Donald Trump, when he goes up there and says really funny things.
Go home, start exercising.
Like when he said during the last campaign, Russia, find the emails. Like you can't take that literally. That's hilarious. And the funny thing is people still listen, Donald Trump's made mistakes, but you can't take everything he says literally, especially when he's at a rally and he's essentially being a comedian.
Yeah.
But the
That's what
election
he
was
is
rigged. It was a
in those
rigged
steps.
election.
He's got some doozies. That's
You know, like when he says, I'll be a dictator for one day, and everybody cheers. Like
Crooked
you have
Joe
to
Biden is so
take
bad.
setting into
He was doing
account.
it. He said it about the border, and the Democrats know what he said. So in a sense, they're doing a verbal cheap fake or deep fake.
He died like a dog.
With the car, it's going to be a bloodbath. He was talking about the electric car industry. It was very clear, and they took that as his supporters will rise up and and create chaos in the. He was talking about electric cars. Both sides do that.
Both
Even
sides.
if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
I am looking forward to the debate. I still think at some point, listen, you could say Biden is sharp as a tack behind the scenes. I wonder about him being able to make it through the first year, and I think that's a legitimate concern for the Democratic machine.
Oh, for sure.
And which has a better ground game than the Republicans have, and the incumbent has the advantage. That's why I think it's going to be really close. I don't know if Trump can win. Plus, he has so many people that just hate him that you have a built-in, like the whole Biden campaign is based on hating Trump. But I still think he's going to get changed out.
I'm sitting there tweeting, bing, bing, bing.
I've been saying that for a long time. I think he's going to be changed out, not because he can't win or not because, they're ignoring whatever the facts are about incumbents, but because he might not be able to make it through. I look forward to the debate.
Yeah, I don't think, and I hate to say this, they're just trying to push the old man to the finish line, which is very wrong because I'm looking at it like, no, the dude's going to be 86 at the end of his presidency. But I do think, and this is the wrong way to go about it, I wish it wasn't the case, but I think the Democrats are just saying, if he can win, then we can have Team Democrat run the country and Joe can take naps. But what I meant about the overplaying your hand, it's also about the debates. Because what I'm saying is it's baked into the cake already that Joe Biden is older than dirt. You know what I'm saying? Like he's already literally fallen down 4 times, and it's still a coin flip election. So I do think this is a misstep on the right. They have set the bar so low for Joe Biden nonstop. He always does way better than expected in these big events, State of the Unions and debates. Like I actually think he'll do fine, and it'll come across as a win because the bar is set so low for Joe Biden. And I think that's a misstep on the right to always underestimate him.
I think that's a fair point. But I also think there's a chance that one of these times Biden will not be able to reach that low bar. I mean, that's a concern with a guy his age having a bad night.
For sure.
I do believe that, like for the State of the Union, they helped him along with something to get his energy level up, maybe a Red Bull.
What was that? Something?
Maybe a Red Bull.
What do you got?
But I also think there's going to be a time with a guy his age who, look, whether you believe videos or not, and you use your eyes, this guy's not at his best and it's not getting better. There's probably going to be a time where maybe he doesn't answer the call, and that's going to hurt him. I don't know.
It is a big deal, Charlie. Biden is the leader. No one should ever grab any leader and tell him when to leave. The leader tells people when to leave. Biden looked like the subordinate in that video. Did I say that right?
No, I get that. My point is, we all know Biden
that happens all the time,
is
Cole.
super
Going
old.
into cars, walking into places,
I know,
doing
but
all that stuff.
that example
You
is not
should've
one to
seen
harp
Kim
on.
Jong-un.
He's the president of the United States.
I know, but of all the
you don't have a guy
examples-
grab him by the wrist.
Him falling up the stairs trying to get on a plane's different, or
not good
when
either.
he's giving a speech at Air Force and he turns around and points to the carpet like the carpet monster just got me.
There was a standoff with Kim Jong-un and Putin getting into a limo together.
Dude,
really?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure
hilarious.
Barack Obama said, "Hey Joe, let's go." Like I think he literally walked
Joe
up.
was staring into nothing, and he's probably like, "Okay, I gotta get."
But that was a nothing compared to all the real bad things that Joe Biden does publicly, in my opinion.
It's just another one.
Okay, but I think when you make everything the biggest thing, I think it
That's
becomes
true.
the boy who cried
That's
wolf.
true.
I really do.
You see it everywhere.
Dude,
Like, I ain't tweeting
It's
it.
what the Democrats did.
Yeah.
If you say you can go back. There's cycles of this. It's Hillary's emails in Benghazi. It's the Democrats talking about Russia every day for 400 straight days where you just stop paying attention. That's what's happening.
Benghazi, too. Yeah, you're right on that.
I think this is a little different because it's a visual, and it's not like a narrative. It's a narrative, but it's a visual one that everyone can see. And the thing, honestly, that does concern me is that whether or not we agree with this, the world is not a wonderful place. And people like Putin and enemies of our country see a weak, feeble guy. And I don't think that's good for the country, right? I mean, you could talk about the age there. What is it, 3 years? Trump is just 3 years younger than Biden. He's in much better shape, much sharper, and doesn't project a feeble look the way Biden does. I don't think that's good.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that becomes the tough thing about like the domestic home life, and should we be focusing on what's happening here versus what's going on internationally? Because I know your feelings about what would happen with wars if Trump or Biden were
I
in
think
president.
Biden gets in, then China goes and oversteps and takes that piece of land, and next thing you know, it's World War III. Or we just
You
back
think
off.
we have World War III?
Or we back off. I think the world. I think Biden's weakness will create more problems on the international stage.
Oh my gosh, Cam. Over under billions of dollars donated to Taiwan.
Oh, that'll be
44 and a half.
that'll be something. There'll be a lot of money getting thrown around.
It ain't donated. Stays here. That's like the biggest misnomer of all these wars. Like, where do you think the money goes? Why do you think we do this?
Well, yeah, I mean,
why do you
military
think
complex.
it all stays here?
Well, I mean,
Like we
except for
all
the-
pretend that the United States cares so much about these other places. No, it's funding the war machine, and the money stays here. That's why we do it.
except for the money that goes for making sure their 401ks are.
That's 10% of the money. 90% of the money goes to American companies. And then we rebuild the countries. Once Ukraine, whenever that ends, who do you think will get the contracts to rebuild Ukraine?
Nation building.
Us. Mm-hmm. That's the point.
Well, I just
That's
think,
what we've always done. That was Iraq. That was Afghanistan.
yeah, except that there is a cost and a budget concern, and I think more of the tab should be picked up by the countries around them in Europe. I mean, I think that's fair. One of the things that Trump said about NATO is that we're paying for everything. I think that's a valid point. I
It's
understand
stimulating our economy.
I
is what I'm
understand
saying.
that when you're pumping up the big war companies, there's a benefit to that too. But there is also other money, which is a budget concern.
I'm not saying that's a good thing,
RFK
by the way, in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that's a positive.
RFK 's
But we
big
keep
on-
talking about we're donating money. No, we're literally funding the war machine through. We're stimulating our country and jobs and companies through these wars.
RFK is a big proponent of not funding that stuff. I mean, that's one of his big things. I also believe, and I just read this like a month ago, and I clipped it off, and then I lost it. But there's even Democrats that want more accountability of the money we do send there, because apparently there are accounting problems where all the money's going to Ukraine. I want everything to be on the
What
up
about
and up.
Israel?
Same thing. Look, Israel doesn't even need our money; they just need our support. It would help Israel. I'm all for accounting every dollar that we send elsewhere. We send money to Egypt. We could tell Egypt, let some of the refugees go. They have
Bring 'em in.
that giant double wall that right, the giant double wall that walls don't work between them
Send them to Martha's
and
Vineyard.
Gaza. We're not going to give you billions anymore unless you let some of the refugees in there to protect them. I mean, to me, the two wars are totally different. One, we need Israel more than we need Ukraine just for our international interest.
I think they're the same.
But-
I think it's funny when people kind of think one's different.
Well, in that part of the country, they're our only ally, and I'm all for accounting every dollar, and I'm not against giving out money. Just let's make sure we know where it goes. But you also, I think, if you're trying to back Israel, don't say you need a regime change there, like Schumer did, which basically
He's cooking burgers.
Which basically, what do you got? was like those orange cones. You know, come on, we're not with Netanyahu. So, you know, and that started really a ripple effect across the globe when the U.S. wasn't backing Israel. I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about calling Chuck Schumer, the most powerful Jewish person in the country, maybe Bernie Sanders.
What about Soros?
Calling for regime change. Are you kidding me? That's a dog whistle for all the anti-Israel people out there. That was a dog whistle. So not money. How about just supporting your allies, like Ukraine and Israel?
Well, I think we're doing that.
Barbecuing.
I like the hypocrisy. I think it's funny when people like one war or the other, and it's always politically based.
Well, I don't like either.
I don't like any war.
Well, neither do I. But I say, okay, we're helping out our allies. They're both allies.
Well, both are the same in that enemies of ours encroached on allies of ours. So, yes, we're going to support them.
Well, of course. I find it very funny how one side of the aisle really attacks one of those wars and the other attacks the other war for political reasons when I just look at them essentially the same. Do I love it? No. They're both our allies. I want to help them out. It can't go forever. But it's funny how people politicize them differently.
The Democrats, because they like Hamas, or?
Well, like the right is very anti-Ukraine war, and now a lot of Democrats are really pushing back on the Israeli-Palestine conflict. I just find that very hypocritical.
What is a greater fear for you guys, really? Biden's age or the vice president becoming president? Science.
Well, they go hand in hand, don't they? Because if you think that Biden's age is going to compromise him potentially his entire life, then waiting in the wings would be the vice president, right?
Yes.
So isn't that kind of the same thing?
Well, I think he's just saying, like, if Biden sticks with it and he's just out of it all day, or if he's out of it and then Kamala comes in and tries to run the show.
That makes sense.
What do you? I think they're both bad.
I mean, how different are they?
Probably not, and they're probably
One's a man,
one's a woman.
One's a woman.
One's white.
One's 80. One's, I think, probably, 50? I don't know how old she is.
One's
58?
One's 590. One's 1380.
I have no idea.
She's like 50.
I was going to say 55.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Do you think Biden is like locked in on all the stuff, like we hear behind the scenes, sharp as a tack, very engaged? Because you know what?
No.
You know what really shocked me was when I forget his name, Austin, had his surgery, which God bless him, he's okay now. But he went in, and the White House didn't know that he was having surgery. And you would think with two hot wars going on that the president is briefed every day on what's going on. And for the White House not to notice that there were no briefings, because it wasn't even Austin. His second in command was on vacation. So
it was summer.
So who's? Oh, but there's
spring break.
There's two hot wars. You think on the daily events that the president has to handle, one of them is getting a security briefing as to what's going on in the world. And they didn't even know that this guy was in the hospital and the second in command was on vacation. They found out days later. That tells me he ain't getting briefed.
Listen, most of the country, I think 70%, think we have two terrible candidates. That's what it comes down to. You can crap on Biden all day long. Other people can crap on Trump all day long. They both have record low approval numbers, 43, 44, whatever it is. But they both have a 50% chance of winning, essentially, because they're running against each other. Whereas, in my opinion, if anybody else from either team ran against the other person, they would win pretty dang easily.
Who would be your ultimate president right now, currently, that's in the mix? That's not even in the mix. That you would think you could just pluck out and have him run because you like what he's.
Why has it got to be a him?
That's a dang good question.
You are a mistake.
That is a dang good question. I apologize.
If you would have
him.
If you would have given me DeSantis or Nikki Haley, I would not have cared at all. If you would have thrown Gretchen Whitmer or Josh Shapiro, governors from purple states, I wouldn't have cared whatsoever. And I think the country, okay, we don't agree with everything, those guys and gals, but they're 55. They're kind of new blood. They've been governors, right? They're not crazy. They're not 80. I think, and that's why, look, whoever wins, you can say, we're going to attack the person who lost and say, this is why you lost. But it's so obvious right now that you can point out the reasons each side is going to lose if they do. Biden is 150 years old. He was also terrible on the border. Now, people on the right will not want to hear this. A huge, huge, huge percentage of the country believes Donald Trump tried to overturn the election. That is why he will lose if Donald Trump loses, in my opinion. if Biden loses, it's because he's too old and because of the border. But if Donald Trump if Donald Trump loses, because he was a pretty good president. Most people agree with that. He was pretty good when he was here. If he loses, it's because he tried to overturn the election. And in the same way, people are trying to tell folks, hey, you didn't see what you saw. I'm just telling you, you might not want to hear that, but it's the truth. And polling shows that, and the 2022 midterms prove that. It wasn't just Roe v. Wade. It was a pushback to January 6th, but not just January 6th. It was calling up Georgia. It was calling up the people in Michigan and saying, don't certify the results. And it's all right there for people to see.
Help the novices like myself. What do you attribute it to? The fact that, and I know we're ballparking, but I'll play along with the number. 70% of the country doesn't like either candidate, yet they both still got to this point.
Well, because you have a binary choice at this point. I get it. Even if you don't like Biden or Trump, most people are going to vote for the Democrat or the Republican because they're saying, hey, I'm a liberal, or I'm a Democrat, I'm a conservative. Hey, I don't love Trump, but I like conservative policies. Or I don't like Biden, he's too old, but I like liberal policies. And I get it. At the end of the day, most people are going to vote. What do you think RFK Jr. is going to get percentage? I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe if he were able to debate, I actually think he'd get a high number. But let's just say it's 10%, which is a lot, by the way.
Yeah, for a third party.
That's a lot.
Might be a tick higher.
I think if he debates, it'd be super high.
Yeah, they won't let him. And they won't let him. They won't even give him Secret Service protection, which
is wrong also.
I don't really understand.
Yeah.
First of all, he's a Kennedy. It's his family
no doubt.
history.
Oh, my gosh.
Get him some Secret Service people. I mean, that is a crazy thing. But January, look.
Did you hear that he said on many of these podcasts that somebody broke into his house and made it up to the second floor of his home?
I think the same dude came back.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about him every day now.
You're damn right. So are Andy and I.
Clip this off. Make it a short.
It's amazing.
I
like it.
And the way I look at it, and I agree with you, if it were DeSantis, I would have voted for Nikki Haley. I just think Biden isn't going to make it through. I don't like a lot of his policies. And the border, you say, well, don't believe what you're seeing. Same thing with the border. The Democrats for 3 years have been saying the border is secure. You could debate that. When they go, well, there was a bipartisan bill. There was a bipartisan bill that had other stuff attached to it. The House passed a bill in 2023, H2, I think it was H2 or something like that, that's in committee in the Senate. It was never even brought up for a vote. That was pure money to secure the border, and the Senate won't even vote on it, and they keep talking about the bipartisan thing. So for literally 3 years, don't believe your eyes what you're seeing at the border. The border is secure. So there's some of that goes to both sides.
Oh, no, but I literally said that's whatever you want to throw in the bucket. Age, inflation, border. I mean, yes, Biden was terrible on the border. Both things can be true. Biden was terrible on the border for really the entirety of his presidency, but they also should have passed that bill. And it was 100% political. They didn't pass that bill. You have to acknowledge what's going on. We all know Biden was bad on the border, and now he's trying to be good in the final year. Oh, no, now we're good. Hey, election time, now we're good. They also should have passed that bill. Both things can be true.
Why would he say that I don't have the power when he signed
he's
executive?
lying.
He's all right. He's lying. I just
they're politicians, man.
Ignore what you see. Well, I know, but we're talking about the deep fakes and everything. Listen. I think with all his warts, and there's plenty of them, I would have picked any other Republican, not Chris Christie, because of the beach and the bridge.
Because of his weight?
And the bridge. No, because of the bridge and he's the biggest hypocrite.
He's the nicest guy to me when I met him, but
Trump will make a better president than Biden at this point in their lives.
Governor Christie says he was only at the beach for 40 minutes before getting back to work on the budget.
Yes, he was
It was
busy.
his house.
It was his backyard.
That one, you know what? I admit, I never read the story back in the day. That doesn't bother me at all now. The bridge is terrible.
Bridge is terrible.
Being in your own backyard doesn't bother me at all.
Who do you think would make a better president? Ignoring all the stuff. All right?
No, I've literally said
Trump
this.
or Biden?
Trump. I think Trump would be a better president than Biden starting in 2024. That's not the argument. The argument from the left is the dude tried to overthrow the election. And again, that's where the reason I brought it up of, hey, your eyes are deceiving you. When the left's telling you, no, Joe Biden's fine. No, he's not. No, he's not. We all see it. Now, I do think you're overplaying every day, acting like the man's going to literally fall down and die. But you can't tell people we're not seeing Joe Biden deteriorating before our eyes because we're all seeing that. In the same way, it's a losing argument to try to pretend and tell people they didn't see what they saw from the election to January 6th. It's a losing argument. And you all know that. Like if we were in the courtroom and you had to take one side of that to win, which side are you taking? Come on. It's an easy
The
call.
Democrats' campaign seems to be similar to what you're saying with the overplaying. He's a convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. I don't know if enough time has passed since January, where there was a riot. Really, I never believed it was an insurrection. It was a bunch of idiots who broke in and rioted, and a lot of them are doing time, and they should. Anytime you break the law, you should be held accountable. So I don't know if that still has the same clout it did in the last election because time passes and people move on. And
but that's not why they're mad. They're mad at what Trump did. Like they literally think Trump should not be able to run.
I get it.
And I think that's what people don't get it.
So
they think that Donald Trump should not actually be able to run for president because of his actions, whether you agree or disagree. That is how a huge portion of the country. And so they say, yeah, Biden is older than dirt. This other man should not be able to run. That's how they genuinely feel.
And we saw in 2022 where we thought there was going to be a giant red wave.
I didn't.
And some people thought there were going to be a giant red wave. And
a lot of the heavy pundits did.
Yeah, and there were some red winners, but a lot of the red losers were people who were election deniers, and that was kind of the division within the red candidates at that period of time.
A lot of those guys, we got an argument on this show, if you remember. A lot of the big Senate candidates were also the hand-picked Trump folks. And that's where, look, Republicans actually had a slight gain, but it felt like a loss because you thought the red wave was coming. But it was the Herschel Walkers of the world. Mm-hmm. I forgot the gentleman's name from Arizona. It was the guy that ran.
Kerry Lake, the governor.
Well, Kerry Lake, but I'm talking about the senator, the guy. Mm-hmm. He lost. And then the guy in Pennsylvania, of course, with the
what's his name?
Fetterman.
Yeah, Fetterman, who I kind of like.
Dr. Oz.
I think he
Dr.
should.
Oz.
I think he should be president. So
I thought Fetterman was going to
G7 summit in a hoodie and sweats.
No, he's cool, man. At first, you're like, God, what is this guy doing? And he's kind of like has a lot more energy now.
Well, he had a stroke.
And
then they said, "Oh, it's not Fetterman." That's another thing. It's not Fetterman. They replaced. No, it's Fetterman, and he's better now.
No.
He had a stroke.
Yeah,
but also his debate was horrible. Let's be real. I mean, it was a Titanic, just awful showing. But it also shows you that he was sick because now, I feel like now he's the most popular Democrat.
Hi, good night, everybody.
Oh God Almighty!
He was. I mean,
bringing it back.
Bring it back. Let's go.
He has rehabbed himself where he's able to have a conversation. Back then, he really couldn't. You shouldn't have trotted him out there. But I guess
if you work full time, you should be able to live in dignity as well. True.
Yes, as well. True.
He was honestly when you come back from a stroke, you have to relearn a lot of things. I give him
Start
credit
from scratch.
Now he's the most normal Democrat we have.
Yeah.
So you can't be mad about him.
No.
He's the one that's ripping on Democrats for the border. He's the one that's ripping on Democrats for being pro, I don't want to say Hamas, but
yeah, he has.
pro Hamas because it's
more anti-Israel.
It's kind of morphed into. It kind of started with the protests as ceasefire, peace, and then it morphed into do away with all Zionists, which is 98% of Jews, and now we're seeing unbridled hatred.
Hatred.
By what percentage?
Oh, I don't know.
0.001%. And then you talk about it every day.
It's like the same people that rioted at the Capitol. That's not all Republicans.
A lot of Democrats.
Reproductive rights are going to kill Trump in November. More people care about that than January 6th, Pac-Man.
I think it's both.
I think it's the economy, number one. Economy. Now, there have been, it has settled in a little bit. Inflation is still high. It's not going down. The rate has slowed. And there are some positive signs. And if it keeps trending that way, that will help Biden. But a lot of people still struggle with the cost of things, which include, rent, or if you want to buy a house, you pretty much can't with the way the market is. Economy's always number one. That's why they say it's the economy, stupid.
It wasn't last election, though.
The border is always a big one. So,
but the economy was not number one in 2022. But it always is. I agree with you. You know the number one issue for Gen Z is? What Kat just said. The number one issue for Gen Z is being able to afford a home for Cole's generation.
Yeah.
A lot of renters out there.
I wish it were like easier for people in Cole's generation to buy a home, but not Cole. I wish there was a way where it could stay impossible for you. But all
your loans
all
get forgiven?
No.
He has a theory. He has a theory.
Is it because they're over 10,000?
Yeah, it's. I don't know how you qualify.
But I think don't you need to be under 10,000 to get the most recent forgiveness?
I don't know.
I think
He thinks no one's getting it. That's what you said.
I saw a tweet that said, nobody I know has gotten their loans forgiven, and it blew up. And I'm like, yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't know anybody who's gotten their loans forgiven either. Like not even a little bit. No, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but they keep just kicking it down the road. And there's a new plan every single few months. There's a new plan to slash off X amount of millions or billions of dollars for
pick up a couple more votes.
Yeah,
couple more. Hey, everybody,
Cole's like, I'll vote for him.
everybody in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, you're all gonna get your loans forgiven.
Yeah, exactly.
And why do you think
I'm not falling for it.
and that the catering to I understand there's a humanitarian crisis there in Gaza, but I mean it's Hamas that runs that country, everything there, and you can't really I've heard them talk about fixing it. You have to get Hamas out. And I've heard the Democrats walk away from saying, because originally it was, you got to get a two-state solution will never work with Hamas in power, because it's in their charter that they don't believe Israel has a right to exist. Also, they want to kill Jews. It's in their charter. But now I've heard them back away from weeding Hamas out totally, and that's because there's a lot of votes at stake in
Keep
Michigan.
a couple in there, just a few of them.
Yeah.
A few of the good ones.
The good ones. I mean, either
Hamas.
the war was supposedly about getting Hamas out, and then they're all in that one area, and they want to finish the job, and they're like, "Don't finish the job. Don't finish the job." What's going on there is horrific. But I mean, Israel was attacked, and it was Hamas and all the proxies of Iran that are attacking Israel pretty much on a daily basis.
I don't think that'll have much impact personally. I just think if you look at Israel-Palestine, for most people, it's like their seventh issue.
Oh, I'm not saying it is, but clearly they're catering to that vote in Michigan, though, because there's a lot of votes out there that are not necessarily on board with Israel.
And didn't Trump somewhat back off of the reproductive rights, or given a little bit at some rally or something, and his fans didn't like it?
I don't know.
But
it's hard to pay attention to everything.
He said there should be rules on that for cases of rape, or when the woman's health is at risk having the child, which I think was the first time he said that. I don't understand. To me, that's common sense, no brainer. I don't know why you wouldn't have that opinion in the beginning, especially
and his fans booed.
Especially if you're a Republican and you realize that this is a big issue for Democrats that could cost you the election. Back off it a little bit.
But they don't. This is where, look,
Trump did back off. You're right.
But I get this side of it. Whew. This is more of a religious thing for them, and I get it. I'm not saying I agree, but they believe that all life is precious, and even if a life comes out of a violent, traumatic incident, which would be what you're talking about, a rape or incest, they look at it from their worldview as that's still a baby, and that baby didn't do anything wrong, and that baby deserves a shot. And I can't disagree with that. That's how they think. Now, when I say I can't disagree with that, I don't think in a state, which we have here, by the way, that you should have those laws. You should have the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. The other thing is they haven't really prevented abortions. You've just basically made people drive 200 miles to get them.
Weren't there some states that were trying to make that illegal, that if they found out that you drove to other states, that was arrestable in your home state?
I'm sure all of that has been on the table in some of these Bible Belt states, yes.
But don't you think if you ask most people, certainly not us because we're all educated,
sure,
that Trump outlawed abortion. The Supreme Court outlawed abortion. A lot of people think that. They didn't. They just kicked it back to the states. And the reason they did was because it's really a legal issue that they felt, is this you can argue either way, but that's why they kicked it back to the states.
But it was politically driven, clearly.
Perhaps,
they all basically misled
perhaps,
during
but it was
their
never
hearing.
outlawed. It's now given to the states to decide for themselves, and you can, in most cases, go out of state to get a procedure.
Which I think is
if
good.
That's what you want.
I think for the really, really, really divisive issues, it is good for them to be kind of statewide instead of nationally. So that way you can kind of live within your own little communities that have certain sets of rules. Now, obviously, if you've been living in, take Missouri for example, and they flip the law, within a matter of months, it's tough for you to just uproot yourself and move to California or whichever blue state that you don't have to go that far.
You can drive to Illinois.
Yeah, you can go right there.
That's where we gamble too.
Yeah.
I know gambling is not the same as abortion, but we have similar laws. People go to Illinois for abortions and to
what do you think is going to happen in November with that?
On the Battlehawk.
Can you do both at the same time?
Yes.
Should we open?
You bet if it's a boy
Should we
or girl.
open a sports book / abortion clinic
One-stop
in
shopping.
Illinois?
Yes.
And a deli.
And by the way, with your take on, the religious aspect of this, I agree with you totally. And people have the right to believe what they want to believe. And so I'm with you. But when I was talking about it, was from a political sense, if you're the Democrats or Republicans.
No, I get it.
But I agree with you.
And it's the same. It's kind of the same bin. It's the same bucket of stop trying to tell us that Joe Biden is young and vibrant, right? In the same way.
Yes, Seth MacFarlane.
Listen, Donald Trump can't really
Mark
pretend,
Cuban.
though. But Donald Trump can't really pretend like he was not the vehicle that overturned Roe v. Wade, right? I understand you might be able to pick off little fragments of the percentage of the population, but you can't be like, no, it's just a states thing. Like everybody, if you're on the left and you're very mad that Roe was overturned, you blame Donald Trump for that, and that's how blame should be assessed
Because of how the court became
court
so red,
findings.
right? Yeah.
Correct.
Do you believe that the 34 felony counts that Trump was found, do you think that was a legitimate case?
I think he did it, 100%. But
what did he do?
Well, he cooked the books for campaign financing.
So people don't even understand that.
Here's what people don't understand.
Accounting. It was an accounting thing.
And I didn't understand this too because I didn't pay any attention until it ended because I don't care that much. But then when it ended, I'm like, okay, people think he committed 34 felonies. It was 34 times of fudging the books on the same payment.
Which is ridiculous.
So it's like if you go to your books for your business and you make 34 entries of, hey, I'm going to move this money to here. So it wasn't like he did 34 bad things. It's he did one bad thing and they fudged the numbers in the books 34 times.
And really it was, did he make his accountant listed as legal as opposed to campaign? That's what it comes down to. Look, I wasn't in a courtroom, so I don't know. But a lot of people have done that and never did time. This was a selective prosecution, and people think he did 34 things. They had to really stretch this to bootstrap it to a federal thing. Otherwise, statute of limitations for a state charge would have gone away. The whole thing, to me, is ridiculous. I don't think people care that much about it, although the Democrats are. The reason I bring it up is, I don't care about Hunter Biden. I think going after Hunter Biden now is the same thing. He wouldn't be.
It is.
He wouldn't be charged if he weren't Hunter Biden. That charge and that one in New York with the real estate fraud, where they'd never charged anyone with that. If his name wasn't Trump, they wouldn't have charged him. So my thing is, I think it's a dangerous, dangerous thing we're playing with now. Because if Trump wins, there's going to be more of those things going after his enemies with lawfare. He's not going to lock them up.
But they also have to commit crime.
You can find a crime anywhere, especially if you campaign on we're going to get this guy. It's called selective prosecution. That's what they found after all this investigation. And if Trump gets in, he's going to do the same thing. And where the heck does it end? That's why
everybody's in jail.
Hunter Biden.
Let's do it all.
You know what I care about Hunter Biden's laptop? The fact that could have impacted the vote by some people.
That's why people. But this is. That's
I don't
what
care
I said.
about punishing him. I don't want him punished.
But Jim,
let him go.
What I said when you said
Cam
Hunter
wants to
Biden.
do coke with him.
When you said Hunter Biden.
You said you would.
Why would you say that?
You said you want to party
I said
with
with
him.
a party, not that.
Oh,
my
sorry.
buddy.
What's wrong
did.
with you?
My buddy.
Well, you
actually
know
did.
how he parties.
What I was saying was
go.
when I said Hunter Biden is the same thing, that's what I meant. And this gets back to the hypocrisy. If you, and this is why I laugh at it. If you think that the reason the Democrats and Biden wanted to suppress Hunter Biden laptop story, why did they want to do that? To win the election, correct? Why do you think Trump paid off Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal? The exact same reason. They didn't want those stories out there. They wanted to win in 2016. So that's my point. They're the exact same thing. And people that only focus on one or the other based on politics, you're missing the point. Joe Biden said, oh, that's a Russian plant and all that because they wanted to win the election. When Donald Trump paid off Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, it was for the exact same reason. It wasn't to protect Melania. You don't think Melania knows he's running around? It was to win the 2016 election. That's the hypocrisy. People don't realize they're the exact same reasoning. Exactly.
Except in one.
No, exactly.
Except one, they trotted out 50 former intelligence officials to say that it was Russian disinformation.
But the story got out, though.
One was at a much larger scale, and it was censored. One was at a much larger.
It was New York Post.
And it was censored.
But it was released by the New York Post. The two stories that I'm talking about were caught and killed.
And it couldn't be shared on social media. One was a much bigger scale.
It was limited on social media.
One was really putting it instead of this column, putting it in this column. I'm not saying that your premise is incorrect. I'm saying they're two different in terms of the scale of involvement. The whole federal government was involved in helping Biden squash that.
But Jim,
one was an accounting,
Jim,
accounting thing.
Jim, one of the stories actually got out. The others didn't, is what I'm saying.
One got out and was debunked by 50 former intelligence
But it was
so that
released by
Biden
the
on
New
the
York
debate
Post.
stage could say it's been debunked, even though everyone knew that it was at the time. Everyone knew that it was real. Everyone involved knew that was his laptop.
Okay, at the time, Rudy Giuliani would not let people see the laptop. That's also true.
The FBI had it.
Rudy Giuliani went and basically paid to get the laptop along with Ashley Biden's shower diary. I'm just saying, those stories were released. The difference was Stormy Daniels' story, Karen McDougal, who, by the way, I had that Playboy as a kid. It was a Christmas edition. And
Christmas edition.
It was about 1994, 95.
Yeah.
Those stories were caught and killed and paid to not get out. That's the difference.
My bottom line is, because my whole point is, I don't like these charges against Trump because was it a real crime? I mean, to me, it is lawfare, but by the same token, the same people who were like, look what you're doing to Trump are hoping that Hunter Biden does jail time. It's a slippery slope. And I'm telling you.
For a gun crime. By the way, I like that the right now wants gun control. They're really big on gun control for Hunter Biden.
Well, I just want people
the same thing as the left now
go to jail when they
the left is for gun crime. The left is for gun crime. My point is
crime.
It's bad to use this as a weapon, which it is on both sides. If Trump gets in, we're going to see more of it, and then when he's out, then the next Democrat will do it. And it's to me, it's disgusting and it's bad for the country.
Sue from Glendale chimes in. She goes, another interesting show. Thank you for educating the public. It's been a great little
How about
debate.
that?
It's been great.
I'm going to put it out there and
I'm
title
learning
it
things.
RFK. What do you think of RFK?
Hey, keep finding those algorithms. I'll talk about anything.
You should get him on
Yeah, he might do it.
He'd do it.
I am likely to vote for RFK, but I will vote for whoever can actually forgive my student loans and not just tell me that you're going to, and then a bunch of mysterious people who may or may not exist get theirs.
What's RFK's take on student loans? I have no idea.
I have no idea either. But it's not going to get over. I'm paying the money that I owe.
Hey,
and this is from a guy who, by the way, would only be interested in doing a charitable endeavor if he gets something out of it. You weren't around for that.
Well, time is valuable. All our time is valuable.
Charlie, if you don't see that the dim side is worse, I can't help you. 314, put a name in.
Good one.
Hey, dumbass, study. Trump didn't try to overturn the election. Biden is the one. You don't stop counting in 7 states, and then all the votes are for Biden. Question mark.
If you really look into all those things, if you truly care about how the votes had to be counted and how the mail-in votes had to be counted, and they couldn't start until Election Day, if you really want to know what's going on, it's very easy to look all those up state by state.
Charlie, you didn't answer the question. Who wins the fight?
Oh, I said all along that Donald Trump would be the favorite. Donald Trump,
come on.
The favorite.
The fight. Who wins?
That means Charlie wants to bet on Biden because he likes the odds better.
No, when you say he's the favorite, it means that there's a shot that Biden wins.
Well, there's always a shot that Biden wins.
Really?
In a fight?
We had this debate like a year and a half ago.
In a fight? Not like
Donald Trump is now
not election.
The fight or the election?
The fight.
Yeah, Donald Trump is winning the fight.
Okay, that's all.
That's all he wanted to know, Charlie.
He's
That's
in much
all
better
he
shape.
wanted to know.
But look, in the last year or so,
we had an
Donald
argument
Trump,
about it.
Okay, but that was when Donald Trump was fat. Now he's on Ozempic, and every day Joe Biden walks slower and slower. Every day.
Biden was bad back then,
Not
though.
like this.
Please. Donald Trump could go and stop at McDonald's 3 times a day and put on 40 pounds and still make easy work of Joe. Joe Biden couldn't win a fight against a light breeze. No. He couldn't.
His walk is very, very bad.
Oh, yeah.
Very bad.
Oh, yeah.
I like it when, and look.
Oh, it's so funny.
We play Trump's bad drops all the time. But lately, in every speech, there's always one phrase where Biden says it with some energy, but you have no idea what he said. Oh,
it's horrible. Just so everybody knows, I'm not voting for either. I just want everyone to know that. I'm not voting for either. So just take that.
Well, I'll be gosh
like the people of the past 4 decades.
To act though, but to also act like Joe Biden in the last 3-4 years has dropped off a cliff.
I'll stop them. I'll veto it.
He'll veto it.
That's why I can't sit here and defend the man. In 2020, it was not this bad. It wasn't. He did 1 million debates. People forget that. There were 1 million debates against all those Democrat challengers. He didn't have these moments. He's gotten way worse in the last 3 years. So pretending like he hasn't is crazy.
Is it possible, because I've heard in recent days a lot of celebrities and Democratic people trying to fight back. Behind the scenes, he's sharp as a tack. Is that possible?
What I'm saying is Joe Biden at 82, he can sit at a meeting with a sandwich and a juice box and listen. It's different than getting up and walking every day and giving speeches.
Kung flu.
You know, I really do want to hear that tape that the Department of Justice is blocking. Like, I want to hear that for myself. They have the transcript out of his, with the prosecutor, 4 hours or whatever it is, that the transcript is out, but they're blocking the release of the recorded tape because the reasoning is they're afraid of someone using it for a deep fake. I would like to hear Biden behind the scenes. I think that's fair. Look, I don't love Trump. I would have picked another Republican candidate. I'm not voting for Biden. But I would like to judge for myself when he's being questioned for a long period of time, because the truth is he doesn't take questions anymore. They used to have news conferences. He doesn't do that. He'll do a hand-picked sit-down interview with a friendly reporter. I want to see what he's like behind the scenes.
He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
and they won't release that. That's crazy.
Hunter got thrown out of the military.
Oh, man. This has been a good discussion.
I enjoyed it.
A damn good discussion. Learned a lot.
Let's talk about RFK at the end, just so I can title.
He's absolutely
he looks pretty good.
Ratings at all.
His voice is getting a lot better, too.
I think RFK is probably the smartest of the candidates. I don't agree with everything. He's said some crazy stuff in the past. I guess everyone
Like
has.
what?
He's kind of like totally anti-vax.
He's not, though.
I've read and seen clips of what he was saying. Maybe his position has changed. Pretty much against all vaccines. I read something that he said years ago where it gave the impression he was pretty much against all vaccines. I look forward to him being on your YouTube, and then you can ask him about it. But I will also
he's talked about it like 1 million times.
I like him. I think he's a good option. I'm not going to vote for a guy who has no chance to win. I would vote for anyone except for Biden. It scares the heck out of me that this guy's going to be in there for 4 years.
I've heard Kennedy say on podcasts before, he goes, people think that the whole vaccine issue, like that's my entire thing. He goes, my number one issue is the housing crisis and restoring the middle class, but I just have this unique take on vaccines, and everyone thinks that's just all I'm running on. So, and like you said, with the housing crisis thing, yeah, it's expensive to live, especially being a young adult. So,
and I don't agree with everything the man says, by the way, but every time people always say he says crazy things, and then when you ask them, there's not a specific thing that I find crazy. And usually with the vaccines, and by the way, my kid has food allergies, and so this is why I've been more looking into it. There's basically a line after this 1986 act where they basically took liability away from these big pharmaceutical companies for vaccines that they wouldn't have to pay out liabilities. And you've seen a huge spike in these food allergies and eczema and things of that nature, which we never saw previously.
Kids are getting sicker. Probably processed food, number one, right? The reason?
Yeah. Hey,
But
good
no,
discussion.
No. Like
good
what
discussion
I just said,
today.
there's literally, it starts after the 1986 Act, which took liability away from these big pharma companies for vaccine injuries. That's what I'm talking about. Like you can look this up.
Damn good discussion, Charlie.